You don't need to win. You don't need to be the top dude. What you need is that everyone is after you.
Hear the devil calling. Hear the devil calling. Well, I hear the devil calling. Gotta pay him what he's due. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war.
Listeners from all over the world, I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you guys had a great morning. I hope you guys did some good PT this morning already. And I wish you guys the best of luck to fight whatever you guys are trying to fight or accomplish today. Today, for the first time, we have former Reconnaissance Company Commander here in the 173rd, senior rated jump master. The guy's a complete animal, Captain Andre Gatlin. We're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff. I know that Andre has a lot of pretty dope stories to talk about. So without further ado, welcome to the show. And Andre, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. I appreciate you coming on the show. It's an honor to have you here on the second episode of the podcast. So we need to get warmed up. We need to get some our blood pumping. Get some fun started, right? And a good way to do that is a Mad Men. I'm just gonna throw some questions at you, and I'm gonna see what you got.
All right, send it.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Ooh, Spider-Man.
Why?
Oh, man. Why not? Guy gets superpowers between high school and college, right? Super smart. Ends up getting the girl. And, of course, he can go anywhere in New York.
Yeah, you're right. And New York City is a big...
It's a big place.
Yep. What's your favorite car? What was your first car ever?
Ooh, my first car ever was a Toyota Paseo.
How much you pay for that?
Nothing. It was given to me.
Wow, that's good. If you were a chief of staff, what regulation would you add or change?
Ooh, what regulation would I add or change? Do you need the regulation number, or can I just
Not really,
say the name? I would add to the regulation as far as the amount of time a soldier is actually required to work. So to clarify that, here in the EU, the Army is treated as federal employees.
Yes.
So when they go over 45, 50 hours of working, they have to then be compensated their time or get paid overtime. So instead of kind of having this like almost indentured
soldiers staying from work from 0630 all the way to 1930, 2000. You're like, what the fuck?
You know, and ask people, hey, you should feel appreciated that we're doing this for you. Like, there should be some sort of left and right limit, not a left limit with an open right limit.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I would add.
You're right. If you were at an airport and an airline gave you a ticket to go anywhere in the world that you want, where would you go? You can't go home and pack. You just have to go right then and there with whoever you are.
Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City.
Well, why'd you go to Vietnam?
Because that's really where I wanted to go on block leave, but the old lady won this last one.
Old ladies, they always have the final call. If you could call yourself 5 years in the future and ask any question, what would that question be?
Ooh. Did the transitions to acquisition core work out?
Okay. All right. What was the hardest school you went through in the Army?
The hardest school was definitely Ranger School.
Is it because it was physically tough or more mentally tough?
It was physically and mentally tough. And I don't say that as a cliche. I say that as a maturity. Okay. So just a young man going through that kind of stuff. How old were you? I think I was 24, so I know it's not super young, but as far as like maturity, as far as my, having done that kind of stuff, I wasn't there.
Okay. Was it right after whatever you guys do?
Yeah. So it was right after BOLIC, which is basically your AIT.
Okay.
Right. And then after that, I went to ARC and then followed up by Ranger.
All right. If it wasn't for the Army, what would you be doing with your life right now?
Man, I most likely would be a cop. That's where I got my...
You got a criminal justice degree?
I do.
Oh, that's awesome. That's what I'm trying to do. Well, that's what degree I'm going for right now. If you had to choose to redo college or go through a Ranger school from day 0 to day 62, 3 times consecutively, what would you do?
So either redo college or redo Ranger School 3 times.
Yep.
I would 100% redo college.
If all jobs pay the same,
Hmm.
what would you work with?
If all jobs paid the same, what would I work with? That's a hard one. I enjoy where I'm at right now. I won't lie. I don't have like a huge breadth as far as career fields that are out there.
Okay. What is one skill that you would like to have that you currently do not?
To speak another language fluently.
Oh, that's not hard. Have you ever felt invincible?
Yes.
When? And why? Why would you do?
I would say in college, everything was just going right.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Cal State Long Beach.
Okay. Who would be a movie character that you would play in real life?
So like a character that I wish I had their abilities, or just like I'm just acting like.
A movie that you're like, damn, I wish I could be that guy right now.
Ooh, it's gonna sound weird, but any one of the Jedi guys, I think that would be fucking cool to have the Force things.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna ask why. What is your greatest failure in life?
Ooh, greatest failure in life. That's a hard one. I think probably my first year of college, I was actually a mechanical engineer, and I just didn't really have the motivation to continue with it. I say that was a major failure. Though I like my career now. Growing up in California during the whole Silicon Valley boom and everything like that, and not taking advantage, like I'm sure there could have been some other fun stuff that occurred from there.
Yeah. When did you change from mechanical engineering to criminal justice?
It was 2 years after that. So basically, my second semester, I basically failed that semester. No real purpose. I was the first one to go to college, so there's no mentors. There was none of that framework or anything. Right, and then after a year and a half, I kind of reestablished my life. I saw someone that I kind of wanted to role model afterwards, and that's when I switched to criminal justice.
All right. This is the last question. If you could possess someone's body for a whole day, what would you do, and why would you choose that body?
Ooh, it would be Hussein Bolt, just so I could be the fastest man on earth. All
right. No. I mean, that's it for the Man Minute. I mean, I think we did pretty good. It was a good little bit over 5 minutes. Last episode, it was like 17 minutes long.
Ooh.
It's probably because Max talks a lot, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
You had more questions. Yeah. So through the way that me and Andre know ourselves, I mean, we don't really know ourselves personally, but we work in the same unit. He's a troop commander he was a troop commander in Anvil Troop 191, and I'm a paratrooper in a Bulldog Troop, right? And he's always found a way to a guy that he didn't like try to stand out, but he always just stood out. I don't know if the way he looks, the way it's something always stood out for him. So I reached out to him right before he leaves because he's about to leave us soon, and to see if he wanted to come on the show. He said yeah, so we're over here recording and having a great time. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, like what have you been in the military? What are your achievements, schools, and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So I came into the military as a OCS candidate. So what that means is basically I went through a application process to get into the military. So 2 to 3 boards before I got accepted. I first had to go to basic training, which I was a specialist during that time. Mm-hmm. After graduating basic from Fort Benning, went down the road to from Sand Hill to Main Post as an OCS candidate, which is technically another promotion, which is random. So you're an E5, but you wear a little OCS thing.
Yeah, I've seen them around when everyone's
school. Yeah, and a little ascot, right?
Bunch of weirdos.
Yeah, weirdos. So after completing OCS, I placed fairly high in the OML, so I was able to select my branch, which I selected armor at the time.
Was there anything that made you be that high, or?
I would say it was just physical fitness. I scored fairly well on the tests, which I'm pretty good at multiple choice questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really it. It was actually a really easy school.
When you say you're good at multiple choice questions, are you like good at guessing or what?
No, it's after reading something over and over, it's fairly easy to identify what the correct answer is compared to just filling it in and trying to just remember it out of the blue. So, like, if I see a 30% solution, it's like, oh, I can fill in the rest. Compared to 0 is a little bit harder for me to, like, write an essay to kind of wing it compared to just multiple.
Imagine if a Pathfinder school was multiple choice.
Oh, man, that'd be great. Pathfinder school, like, so that was the second one of the hardest ones. Like, that was the mentally worst one. Like, the one nanas, like how you do drop zones, like, I remember going to sleep and seeing the matrix of numbers coming down.
Yeah, everybody that goes there, they told me it's pretty rough over there.
So after OCS, I commissioned as an armor officer, a second lieutenant, which I stayed on Fort Benning, and I ended up going to Harmony Church. From there, I did mechanized leaders course, striker leaders course. I did my main school, A. Bullock. From there, I went to ARC, followed by pre-ranger, ranger school. Somewhere in there, I also went to airborne school. And then I got sent to 3rd ID, 3rd Brigade, which that was also at Fort Benning. So that was Kelly Hill. Now I think it's 3rd SFAB or 1st SFAB that's up there. So from there, I was immediately signed to be a tank platoon leader. So I went forward to Kuwait to meet up with my guys.
So they're already deployed when you joined? Okay.
Yep. So they snapped me up, sent me forward, and random little thing. I guess at the time I was the only tank platoon leader with a ranger tab in all of division.
Damn.
So definitely
you're probably pretty node over there then.
It was weird. So it was cool because like my battalion commander was super happy, and that is how he introduced him. So I will say the story. So I go up there to, for them to introduce me. This is like day 2, day 3.
Okay.
Battalion commander grabs me. He's saying his stuff, and he's just like, yeah. And finally, he grabs me. He turns me to the left, exposing my left shoulder sleeve, right? My ranger tanker. Great way to make friends with your fellow peers, as you're the new guy who just showed up towards the end of the deployment and stuff. But overall, I ended up making a lot of good friends, a lot of good buddies.
I remember a time that when Tessera and Hammond got back from Ranger School, and the Colonel Jones, I think I never seen him so proud in his entire time here, and he did the same thing. He took him to the side. He was like, there you go. Yeah. He didn't say nothing. He just pointed at the tab and was smiling. And I'm like, all right, cool.
The tab is a weird thing, man. I'll say there's like sometimes you just don't realize it, like how significant it was. But I remember, which I'll say shortly, when I became an aide, I went up to the garrison commander to tell him that the general wanted to have a meeting with him. The guy was kind of a tough dude, right? Mm-hmm. So I go to his office and, I'm standing there waiting for him. He tells me to come in. And I go, hey, sir, I'm Lieutenant Gatlin here for Brigadier General Quintus. And he was just like, stop. He was like, turn. And I turned towards the left. And he was like, what branch are you? I was like, armor. He's like, okay. What do you have to say? And I was like, really, guy? Like, you really doing this? But there's some people that are really into it, and it is a significant school.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty powerful school when it comes to looking at the soldier's resume, if you want to say that. I mean, but do you think that having a tab comes with being a good leader, or no? Because a lot of people believe in that, and I just want to see what's your opinion on it.
So it's one of the foundations to be a good leader. It doesn't make you a good leader. What Ranger School instills into you is what I think is necessary to be a good direct leadership. So there's different types of leadership, but good direct leadership, which is reliability.
Okay.
Because when you go to Ranger School, if you don't tie a knot, right, you give everyone a no-go. Right? Yeah. Like, you have to do the right things constantly, and it doesn't go away as you go through the different phases. All they do is give you additional responsibilities, which you are expected to do when no one is around.
Okay.
And that's the quintessential what is needed for leaders is when no one is around for them to do the right thing for whatever that standard is.
Yeah.
So no, if you go to Ranger School, are you able to, like, is that going to make you like the next president of the United States?
Probably
no,
not.
Probably not. But what it does instill into you for at least 60 days is how to be reliable.
Okay.
And if you continue that forward, people tend to gravitate to people that they trust.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, you want to finish off your story and stuff?
Yep. So came back, did my thing as the tank platoon leader, Kuwait, or back in the States. Knocked it out the park. I got selected then to be the aide de camp for the chief of armor, which at the time was Brigadier Quintus, who I think he's still in the military. The last job I know he did, he was the 3rd ID division commander. Okay. And then I stayed on for Brigadier Quintus, which he ended up being one of the commanding generals in Korea. That was an eye-opening job. That I literally got thrown to the wolves. Had no idea what was going on. Was definitely not ready. And
it's like a brand new lieutenant here, and when I want to get thrown to S3.
yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's one thing to get chewed out by a captain, a major, even a lieutenant colonel, right? Yeah. To get chewed out by a brigadier general, it's a whole different cosmos when the entire building is just watching you just getting destroyed by this guy, and you just. That was definitely a stressful time that helped my career along as far as like building good habits. That was definitely required for this unit. Okay. So after that time, I went back to Kelly Hill to get XO time, which I was an FSC XO, which kind of opened up my eyes as far as maintenance and kind of the support realm of like how do you deal with these soft MOSs. From there,
soft MOSs.
Yeah, soft MOSs. During that time, I was able to go to 2 additional schools. So I went to Air Assault School and Pathfinder School for the 2nd time. That's right. I'm not a first-time go for Pathfinder.
I mean, I'm not really surprised. I think that happens very commonly.
Yeah. So did that. Went to the Maneuver Captain Career Course, which is basically like the WLC of equivalents for the officers, and then got afforded the opportunity to come here to the 173rd, which I won't lie, it was very location dependent of why we came over here. Coming over here, I went to the Cavalry Leaders Course, which is the highest cavalry school you can go in the U.S. Army. From there, I got signed to be the Squadron S4, which I was not ecstatic about. Having been the FSCXO, I wanted to be the S3, especially after going to the Cav Leaders course. I'm like the most expert person.
Who was Infantry Troops Commander at the time? Before you took over?
It was Colonel Stauffer, Lieutenant Colonel Stauffer.
No, I'm talking about Infantry Troops Commander.
Who was the Anvil Troop Commander?
Yeah, before who did you replace in Anvil Troop?
So I replaced Captain Wong. Prior to Captain Wong, it was...
I wasn't here for whoever was before Captain Wong.
Yeah. So Captain Wong is the person I replaced. So like when I got to here, he was in the S3 shop. He was co-ops, and I was in the S4. During that time, there was a lot of assurance that was going on. So we were going to every single country. I would say my first year here.
Yeah, I think I got here kind of in the middle of that. I got here, it was a little bit after Infantry went to Portugal, and when we were going to the Baltics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were going everywhere.
We were going everywhere. And as the S4, I went to every single one of those places. So that was a fantastic opportunity to do that.
I wish the audience could see the face of sarcasm right now.
Yep. After the Baltics, which was like a culminating effect of everything I've learned in the logistics world, I was then assigned to be the assistant S3 for our platoon live fire and troop live fire underneath Colonel Jones. So as you know, those were extremely complex. And
they were very complex, but they were fun though. I really enjoyed them. It was probably my favorite time to train was we were doing those live fires. It was great.
Yeah. I could definitely see the excitement with the paratroopers.
I mean, I mean this with all my heart. I was truly excited when I did live fires. But after they were done with them, and we were done. The minute they called index, I'm like, damn, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when we had to wear overwhites. That was the worst
That
part.
was really cool, and I enjoyed that. So yeah, so after that was done, like I became a troop commander, and that was like one of the first things we did was the training progression, which started in the wintertime. And yeah, the overwhites, and I remember like being in that open field with the guys suppressing a bunker, going to knock out a bunker with their overwhites just to go to a room and clear it out, then to go onto a screen and call for fire. And
it was I don't really think like most places do live fires like that. It was so much that we had to do in a live fire.
Colonel Jones was, I mean, that was his quintessence. That's how he did everything, was live fires. That was like how he built leaders. That's how he knew how to train. That was his expertise, which was good because that's what everyone in the maneuver world I feel like wants to do, is do that, not come back and try to do their DTS voucher or try to figure out like their PDHA
or sit in a screen for 3 days without seeing nothing. I want to go over there and lay some rounds down range.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then so that brings me to I was the troop commander. We did I did 2 CTC rotations and 1 very long training progression, and then I'm here now about to go to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to be an OCT for National Guards and Reservists.
Wow, you are going to be chilling. Hey, honey, where you want to go this weekend?
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty interesting job. Before we go to the next question, we all woke up this morning to the news of the I don't want to say assassination, but the strikes that we did that America did on the Iranian convoy coming out of the airport in Baghdad.
Against their lead intel general, major general.
Yeah. I mean, what's your intake on that? Do you think? What's your opinion on it? What do you think about that?
I mean, so I honestly don't know what the strategic gains or not, like, realistically. All I could perceive was that that general, right? So he was in charge of basically the equivalent of our CIA, our special forces, all of our intel organizations, and the way that the Iran military is created, right? Like that's pretty much like his sole job until he dies, right? Like there's not going to be someone that replaces him, like a Congress where there's civilians over us. Like he is part of the government, number 2. So as I understood in Iraq, right, there's always other influences coming in, and he's the headpiece. He's the commanding general in charge of all the disruption that's going on that Iran was trying to influence, whether it's good or bad. He was the head honcho. So the U.S. targeting him somewhere in their analysis is my hope that they saved American lives over, which I'm pretty sure they did. And President Trump is definitely, he has the authority, he has the right to do what he believes to save American lives. And I don't know, I always try to think of that, like, if you're the president, like you're always risking lives. Like, am I going to risk like one of my citizens' lives, or am I going to risk 10 lives?
It's the risk you got to take.
Yeah, there's some. So he made a choice. We haven't heard anything from him just yet, so I'm assuming there's more going on to all this. But in the end, like, I support my country, and whatever needs to be asked of me to protect our country, our citizens, and everything like that, I will do.
Absolutely. And another thing that happened was the 750 paratroopers from the 82nd got called on their version of ACRF.
The QRF, the real one.
So in being in 191, you probably, I already went through a lot of months of ACRF.
Yeah.
And how butthurt were you when they got called to go to Iraq?
So this is going to sound extremely selfish, but I wasn't too butthurt because I'm leaving,
You're right. We do all these months from ACRF, and
Yeah.
the time we're off, someone gets called,
Yeah. So I mean,
and we pick up in like a couple of days.
yeah. So I mean, you never know, and I mean, the thing with the 82nd is they have a division headquarters, right? So they have. We don't have a division headquarters, and a division brings so much more to bear that it's really hard for us at the tactical level to understand the organizational and strategic level a division can bring. But that's what they have. They have a division that is supporting them back at Fort Bragg, and you can believe that there's a giant building
Absolutely.
that just has like a one-way phone to, the DOD and even possibly the White House, and are making all the pieces happen. So, I mean, that is their legitimate job, and they tell you that ACRF is a contingency, and that's what it is. If for some reason we start going from contingency to like, hey, this becomes our mission, that means there is some real serious stuff that the entire military is gearing up for, or just a significant catastrophe. Like, in my honest opinion, I think if the ACRF ever did get called on, I think it's going to be a natural disaster. I pray that it doesn't happen, but like a volcano goes off down in Italy or Sicily or something like that, and they're going to need help.
Yeah.
And the easiest people to help that, are on 24/7.
1 503rd and 2 503rd in Vicenza. That's what they need.
Yeah, right. But that's what I think ACRF, if we ever do it, it's going to be that. It's going to be a natural disaster that happens here in Europe.
Yeah. When you decided to join the Army, what made you choose to go an officer instead of being enlisted? Was it the money, or was it you want to make a bigger impact? What was it?
It was experience. So as I said, I have a degree in criminal justice. I was planning to be a police officer. My ultimate goal was to be an FBI agent.
Okay.
So the best route to be an FBI agent was to become an officer, because that line of experience was.
It ties
you
up.
have you have a better track. So that's what it was. So I initially joined the military during the housing crisis as a means of experience. So instead of going to college to go get my master's to compete for an FBI job, I went to get experience. And the military is the experience that's required.
Okay. Are you plan on getting your master's before you get out, or when you get out, or?
Yeah, so I actually got accepted to the Naval Postgraduate School.
Okay.
So I applied to the Acquisition Corps, which is the people in charge of making the next tanks, weapons, like, that JLTV that we keep on not getting.
Yes.
So there's someone in charge who's in charge of putting out the request of, we want this, to making sure everything comes in time, to making sure everything's shipped out here and stuff. And then also part of the branch is also contracting. So like, let's say you go to Iraq and there's nothing there. There are green shooters there that work with millions of dollars to build the infrastructures from the local populace and stuff like that. So through that, I'm going there to get a master's in systems engineering.
Okay, that's pretty cool. As an officer in charge of other leaders, and some of those leaders being sometimes having more time and experience than you, what do you really expect from them?
Honesty. So like everyone has their own, I won't say lanes, but like their own expertise, right? So like, though there is an NCO that's been in the troop, or who's been an NCO and been in the Army longer than me, he may not have been a troop commander longer than me. So, me being in the spot for 5 months, I have a different jobs and different details and different things that's required. So when you are managing other leaders, again, 1, you need them to be honest. 2, you need to be able to assess their capabilities. 3, you need to be able to understand whatever the problem set is, and then finally deploy them to wherever they need to go in order to achieve the goals.
All right. So that being said, what about guys that, so let's say that senior specialist that he's about to go to promotion board or just passed the promotion board, what do you expect from him until before he gets promoted to be a sergeant?
I expect him this is gonna sound funny. Expect him to be adult. So what does that mean? So a lot of people from private to, junior specialists are always asking questions and always waiting, for the next thing that goes on, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll literally sit out front and wait for the NCO to come tell them to do something. The transition from senior specialist to sergeant, what my expectations is that now you are looking to see what can be done, and then you are doing it. So, for example, everyone knows 1700 comes around. It's time for us to leave.
Yeah.
A specialist or a private, like I expect him to kind of hang out and look at his phone and wait for what is the next orders. A senior specialist / junior sergeant, I would expect him to be like, the trash is not taken out. Hey guys, we need to take out the trash.
Yes.
Or hey, we need to put the vehicles back in the line. So that's that transition, again, that adult transition of like, you are now seeing a problem and you are executing to fix it, resolve it, or complete whatever is being done. That is the transition, and that is what I expected. Didn't have to be big things, right? Like sometimes it could be like, hey, I know I need to do this, right? Senior specialist, junior sergeant. He doesn't know how to do it, but he at least then brings it up to someone's attention instead of just waiting. It's like, oh yeah, Sarge, I saw it, but I didn't know what to do. Like I expect that from privates. I expect them to wait for their orders, and once they get their orders, they violently execute.
So what do you think about that? I don't want to. Okay, what do you think about that more high speed private that like is just taking initiative that the senior specialist isn't, or and stuff like that?
So I think something like that has to be fostered, and it has to be carefully fostered, because you get someone too high speed, they end up alienating themselves from the rest of their peers, right? And something bad could happen, right? Like, so they're knocking out of the park at work. No one around them really wants to interact with them off of work or whatever. So they then end up doing something out of work to, make up. Like, hey, look, I'm still one of the boys. And they go do something stupid, right? So you got to sometimes tone them back a little bit in certain aspects, and then at the same time give them additional responsibilities to kind of put them on the fast track. So it could be like as easy as, if you're short team leaders, putting that person into the position where they're kind of like a team leader, or making them their own little team. So like, hey, this is your vehicle. We're short people, so you're gonna have to take care of this vehicle while these other two guys take care of their vehicles. And then again, like, watch to make sure that dynamic doesn't change with the whole group. Finally, is making sure that they are incorporated into that group. Like, everyone is proud of that, their high-speed private, right? And like everyone wants to mentor them compared to dissing them, putting them down, calling them Blue Falcons or something like that. I've seen that, and it was discouraging, like kind of how everyone cramped. Like Tassara, when he came back, he had like some frictions with people that kind of was, I won't say jealous that he had a Ranger tab, but
yes, and then he goes and passes the board and gets promoted to corporal. And a lot of people, I went to the board the same day to Sarah, and we both got promotable that same day. I think it was us and like one more the person out of 18 people, and I experienced the same thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, this guy's turning into a douchebag now. He thinks he's a sergeant already," and I'm like, "No, that's not how it is." I understand. I know. I've seen that happen, and it happened to me a couple times.
Yeah.
So, what was the hardest decision that you made as a troop commander? Something that you really had to put a lot of thought into it.
So, the hardest thing was creating the culture that I wanted within the troop.
Okay.
Because and I would focus on the officers, right, on my lieutenants, because, I mean, those are the people that work directly for me, right? And each one of them had their own personal views, their own how they did everything, right? And when I took over, the op tempo in the unit was just...
It was out of control.
It was just out of control, right? It was out of control. The brand new lieutenants, they have no idea. Like, so like, I won't lie, sometimes the lieutenants would just say fuck it, and they just would not put in as much energy as I wanted them to, or to buy in as much, right? Because a lot of them were on the fence too. They're just like, hey, I'm just doing this for college. So the hardest thing was managing when to be stern with them, when to be relaxed with them, when to bring them in. The monthly counselings I did with them, like what do I bring up and what do I not bring up? What do I allow to kind of go by? Like, because I see as a troop commander, you'll be surprised as how much you actually know, right? It is just insane. Like, everything just kind of bubbles up, right? And if you allow something to happen, right? Like, people take that kind of as the standard, or like they just go
you
with
let it go by.
Yeah, right. So
if
if you let it go by, like, you accept it by not saying anything. So there is some tactical acceptance that I allowed happen to ensure that people felt like they owned. They owned more. Like, there are some things that they knew they couldn't own, and there's nothing they could do, but they had these little spots where they felt like they've owned it, which to me, like, was nothing illegal, immoral, unethical, or anything like that. So allowing them to have that authority, to feel like, like they got this, was relatively important, and allowed, especially our troop, to have very strong platoons, which that raised the morale at the time, which needed to happen, which within each one of those elements. So that's what I would say the most difficult thing is like, how do you cultivate really 5 different elements, to each specialize in their own thing, right? Because each platoon is strong at their own, but
and do that while trying to do your job as a commander is
as doing commander, and somehow getting them all to come together and getting them to do what you want. Yeah, which I guess is the definition of leadership, right?
Yeah, that's correct. What would be a piece of advice you would give to a junior NCO, like a brand new promoted sergeant, and a junior lieutenant, a second lieutenant, coming to work for you to be a better leader?
Okay. I would say for a junior team leader to be a better leader is 2 things. One, reliability, right? So
that thing that you said in range school, always do the right thing.
Yeah, so, hey, do this. If you're unable to do it, come back in a timely fashion and say, hey, I can't do this. I would require this to do it, right? That second little...
Yeah, a lot of people, they know they need some extra stuff to finish the task they're given, and I guess they're too scared to ask for that stuff. And as a sergeant, you shouldn't do that. Like, if you need help, if you need an extra resource, you should definitely speak up, come up with a net, and ask for that resource. Because how are you going to do it if you don't have what you need?
Exactly.
And how are you going to get what you need if you can't get what you need? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And a lot of people are scared to do that stuff. And
I think that comes with experience of there is a lesson that you learn in the military of how to ask for things, right? It is an art of how do I figure out exactly what I need. And that's when you get those young NCOs, you got to put them in situations where, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, that they can build that experience, so later down the road they know like how to ask things, how to get things. It's not a lot of my peers just feel like people just know, like you get pinned on and you just know how to operate.
It's definitely not like that.
It is not that case. And
I think if there's a rank that definitely needs, like, is in the process of learning the most, is definitely that brand new promoted sergeant or that brand new lieutenant showing up to the unit.
Exactly. And so you just have to put them in situations. And so I enjoyed always talking to my team leaders and putting them into those situations. And a lot of ways that I was able to put them in situations was just me going in depth and asking them just questions like, all right, hey, your guy was supposed to go there. Why didn't he go there? Oh, well, I didn't have this. Well, why didn't you have that? Well, I didn't know the timeline. Well, why didn't you have the timeline? Oh, well, no one gave it to me. You expect someone just to give it to you? Well, no. Well, then what do you need to do? I need to go here. All right, well, how can you make sure that doesn't happen again? Well, if I create this calendar or this thing, then I have it. Okay, good. So, you now have this thing coming up. What are you going to do? I'm going to do this to this. Well, who are you going to talk to? I don't know. Well, who's the one who deals with that? Oh, the training room. So go talk to the training room.
Exactly.
Right? So, like, those were the ways as a troop commander I was able to influence the NCOs. When it comes to the platoon leaders and platoon sergeants and section sergeants training their team leaders, they then need to put them into other scenarios, more of, like, live fire scenarios of, like, how do you maneuver your guys? How do you control their rate of fire?
I mean, would you do that with a new lieutenant, though? I mean, he
So,
doesn't
yeah.
have a lot of ground experience.
So with a new lieutenant, right, there's different ways troop commanders take it. I'm a very hands-on kind of dude. So yeah, with the new lieutenants, it's not only asking, but it's definitely putting them in situations to like to get them to be able to think analytically through things. All the additional duties I give them, right? The additional duties, the investigations. It's very carefully picked. In order to get them to grow. So even though I know someone may be able to do it quicker, faster, better, I'll put someone into that scenario so that they can learn. Next, when it comes to sticks training is phenomenal for a troop commander to be there. And you just, when it comes to sticks, I hate it when people fight to index, right? Like everyone gets that feeling, that sensation. It's like, oh, index is coming. So it is my personal goal to
pass index.
pass the index. Like, I don't want you ever to think in your mind, like, I'm waiting for this magical thing to go. Like, you should be thinking, all right, I finally got to this point. I need to consolidate, reorganize, and I need to continue on. So, like, during our sticks, during our platoon ex-evals, the roughest part where we had our mask out, where we had our sea-burn attack, where we had, we're about to wrap everything up and another ambush hits us, was right in the middle of the entire lane, which the lane was like a 6-hour lane. So 3 hours in is when you're doing what you would feel like your culminating event. The lieutenant feeling like he's culminating.
And then you got 3 hours left,
and you still got 3 more hours. So like,
it's that you get psyched out sometimes.
You do.
You got to snap out of it. You got to come back.
You do, and that is what's essential for a brand new lieutenant, is to be able to complete whatever actions is going on, at the same time looking out to whatever the next one, and trusting your platoon sergeant that he is looking at the situation now and right, of making sure all the little pieces are able to come back for whatever next plan you have going on.
Okay, it's all come down to being prepared. Like back when you said about the NCOs asking for resources and like not having a training calendar or not knowing the progression and stuff like that. Nobody's expecting. I mean, I think as a commander, you're not expecting them to know everything, but you're expecting them to know enough to cover them and cover their soldiers, so that way they're not messing up. It's all come down to being prepared. Something I learned that from Captain Williams. He once told me that readiness is key. Like preparing is a key to success, and that's something I live by every day. Either coming in on Sunday, knowing you got IMC and FMC on Monday, coming in on Sunday, rigging your ruck and your stuff ready. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you got to do to make sure you're prepared, right?
That is, and I mean, you're kind of going back to the first thing I said of being reliable. Yeah. So that is a key part of being reliable is preparation, right? 80% preparation will get you to that final 20% of success. Yep.
What are your plans in your future in the Army? And can you go a little bit in depth of what you're doing next in your next unit?
Yeah. So let me talk about what I'm going to go to my next unit. So my next unit at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, which is a combined Army, Navy, Air Force base. As an officer, OCT, officer controller, my job is to assist other units in training in order to deploy to AFRICOM and EUCOM, right? So if you go on to ATN, CATC, whatever cool guy AKO acronym is that they want, right? You have the TE and O's, which is basically a step-by-step of how do we accomplish our task for our mission essential tasks, our METs, right? So every single unit will have between 3 to 6, usually the magic zone is 5, of things they have to do. So the infantry unit I'm going to go to most likely will be training maneuver elements. So maneuver elements is conduct an attack, conduct a defense, movement to contact, probably a rapid deployment going on. So it is my job to, one, know the doctrine of the unit, so infantry armor, of how they accomplish an attack. Two, know the step-by-step of all the things that they need to do. And then three, observe them, put any kind of stresses or eliminate any kind of stresses so that they are able to meet those tasks. And once they do meet those tasks or they don't meet those tasks, give them a good after-action report, an AAR, of, hey, this is how you succeeded. Or excuse me, this is what you were supposed to do. This is what you ended up doing. Now let's talk about ways that you could have done this better.
Okay.
In the future.
All right. Have you ever thought about doing anything like SFAS, RASP, SFAB, or?
I did earlier in my career. I wanted to go Ranger, be that one even more unicorn of that armor guy in Ranger.
I mean, there is one there right now.
There are plenty. There are plenty.
My old XO, Lieutenant Brand, complete animal, is there right now.
He is an animal. Yeah, he's over there in the recon side. Major Herbrick, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember him.
He was actually there too as a he was a staff officer as a major, but he was doing strategic stuff for them.
Okay.
There's quite a few armor officers that went there, but yeah, I wanted to go there to be cool, and then
those guys are just so professional and good at what they do.
They are offered the opportunity to do their job, and by that what I mean is, like, they have their set schedule. Like, when they're on their schedule and it's approved, there is no last minute taskings, which is things that I feel like take away through conventional forces.
Yes.
That are not tier 1 or tier 2. Like, and then they do those things, right? And like, those are the guys that just love physical fitness. You know, they love mentoring each other. There is a.
You also love kicking ass.
Yeah. So that was an idea, and then I kind of steered away when I came here to the 173rd. The op tempo kind of, I won't say beat me down, but like I felt satisfied. Like, Ranger, it would be cool and everything like that, but I will lie, I will say that was kind of like my earlier days. SFAB, if I didn't transition branches, probably would be something I'd be very interested into going into. Just like, I tried telling this to my guys, like, you know, sometimes you got to read the leaves. Like, when someone says, like, this is priority 1, right? Go to the things that people make priorities. Like, though, like, people who aren't in it may not think highly of it, when the top guy is saying, hey, I'm putting all my resources, I'm putting everything into this, like, you got to believe that there's something there. Yeah. And I kind of have that feeling with the SFAB, that I feel like 10 years from now, that whole group of SFAB guys, when they grow up and they start controlling the Army more because they are number 1, they have these codes, they are able to go through the Army system up to higher and bring along with them their fellow subordinates, that everyone's going to be looking back, and SFAB is going to become something that is fought for, just like Ranger kind of is.
Do you want to go into detail of what the SFAB does? I'm not really too familiar with it.
Yeah, so the SFAB, their role is to advise and assist foreign nations. So the Army has always done this, and what they used to do is they would make, I want to call it like MIT teams, when they call it. Basically, they would take a combat brigade. So imagine 173rd. They took half the officers, half all the captains are gone. Only that's left is a couple lieutenants and some of the captains.
The big guys.
Yeah, right. To do rear D. There's some NCOs that are taken, right? Like, let's say a third of the NCOs are taken forward to some country, and basically they're just teaching that country of, like, hey, this is how you conduct conventional forces. Well, when you take that away from a combat brigade, and they come back, like it doesn't take like a year to reestablish all your systems and get everyone ready. It takes 3 years after you do that. So the army was just pulling from all these combat brigades, these special teams, and it just had a devastating effect over the combat readiness as a whole for the army. So what they said was, all right, we're not going to do that to combat teams, because if I take someone away from a year, I make a brigade NMC for 3 years. And if you know our vehicles, like, can you just imagine? Like,
I mean, they're garbage.
Yeah, right? So, like, you're doing that. Let's just make our own organization where that is their job. So now that they did that, right, it frees up the rest of us brigades to hopefully focus on what we're fighting for. But everyone knows what Special Forces does, right? Mine is like their secret squirrel, like, kill guys. Like, they go in to, like, the tropics. They teach people how to do their poop and snoop, and like how to shoot all these cool weapons, and how to, like, fight as an insurgency and win. And now they have democracy. Well, that's the SFAB job, right? Or excuse me, that's the Special Forces. The SFAB job is once you already have that country that's well established, of like, hey, this is how you become from like a third-rate military to a top-notch military, right? Like teaching them, hey, this is how you do gunneries, this is how you do weapon qualifications. And unfortunately, the SFAB that we have, the problems they've been facing is logistics, which logistics is a pain in the butt.
Yes, and like, it's so important to the success of the organization.
So our SFAB has been downrange, basically advising other countries' militaries of like how to train to win, making sure that during their operations the logistics are actually in place. Now, their other mission, if need be, is they're also assistants. So that means they could be a sergeant could be assisting a company commander with how to deploy his company to realistically kill things. So like, you ever see movies where it's like, you have like the American is there, they're fighting the British and stuff like that, and you have like that one French guy who's like, he's in it, he's fighting, but like he's kind of showing them how to do this stuff. Like that's the SVAB. They're in the weaves, they're fighting, they're making sure that our allies are able to do what they need to do, and they're not using like the big force, like precious American lives doing it.
What about SFAS? You didn't ever interested in trying to be a Green Beret?
No, I never. The Special Forces thing to me is just 2-3 years to be able to like maybe do something cool. Like I don't know. The people who kick down the doors to do the real cool shit are fucking Rangers. Like I remember Major Staley, our former S3.
Yeah, I remember him.
He was a company commander in Afghanistan. There was a Special Forces major answering to him because he was the one that owned the AO. So a captain, does not outrank a major. The major had to come to him whenever that major wanted to do anything within his AO.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, at that point, rank doesn't really matter. I guess.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, he's in charge of the AO, so that I guess the major was doing what he should be doing. He doesn't know what's going on.
That is true. So what I guess I'm trying to say is I was more appealed to like the actual kicking ass thing instead of the like scooping and pooping and acting like you're cool.
Okay. All right. I mean, I have a whole different intake on the Green Berets, but I don't want to get into that. What is your key to success to be the best leader you can be every day?
Reliability, preparation, humility, right? Like people.
Yeah.
Like everyone has
people.
Yeah, treat people like people. Everyone has motivations, right? And it's kind of a selfish thing as a leader. Like you got to figure out someone's motivation so that you can really get them to achieve the goals that you want them to achieve. But honestly, like this army is, we're not unethical or anything like that. So it's really nice to be able to be like, oh, you're motivated by family. Like, okay, let me make sure that your family knows what's going on. Let me make sure your family sees pictures so they can be proud of you. Let me make sure that, your family feels secure. Or some people just really want to shoot shit. So it's like, all right, man, go over here, go shoot this. Some people honestly are also in it for the money. So like as a leader, you got to make sure that that is squared away for them, so that they are motivated. Um, I would say that that is a very important thing as a leader, is understanding what motivates people.
Do you have someone that you aspire to be or inspired to be like, or someone that you look up to? Like, damn, I want to be like this guy one day. Or when things are hard, I look up to this person because they can then help me out, figure out what's going on.
There are a couple people. So I would say like our former field grades that we had, Major Staley, Major Herbeck, were definitely people that I looked up to. Um, I would say our current squadron commander and last squadron commander, they had their own little bits that I wanted to be in. Um, and then they kind of lay out the groundwork of how to do it. So anytime like there's a rough time going on, I would either reach out to them, ask them questions, or just see how they approach things.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I think it's important, outside of just looking up to someone, is having a depth as far as knowledge. So I have multiple Facebook professional pages that I'm aligned to, that literally, as I'm scrolling through my Facebook or Instagram, I'm looking at these and they're putting on random topics. That's just, one was talking about a guy got two reprimand evaluations and didn't know if he was going to make it to the next grade, to, someone dealing with a certain live fire. So how people transport people on mill air to get whoever on whatever location they need to get. And all those kind of forums build your experience. So outside of just looking up to people, going laterally and people you don't know, building that kind of experience is also vital.
Okay. Do you think your leadership approach changed from when you first became a troop commander compared to now that you're leaving?
I think a little bit. When I came in as a troop commander, I would say the environment was toxic. So
Toxic in like what level? Was it troop toxic?
I would say it was troop toxic. So at squadron level, it was definitely tough, right? But at troop level at the time, we had a suicide, like a month and a half earlier, right? People were upset about that. There was,
and it was right in the middle of live fires too.
It was right in the middle of live fires.
I remember because we were out there to support you guys, and they were like, "Hey, we got to go back to get our stuff ready because we're gonna support Anvil." Some shit went down. We're like, "Oh, what the fuck happened?"
Yep, exactly. It was during the walkthrough. I remember that day. So it was a trying to get everyone to understand, trying to get the NCOs at the higher level NCOs to calm down, because everyone was just on edge, which just trickled down to like no one being satisfied. I at the time I didn't think I could raise morale, but I thought I could at least raise work satisfaction. Like, people aren't miserable coming to work. Like, people look at work as like not something to be frightened of something of there's going to be a challenge, something good may happen from it. You're with your battle buddies, so it is amusing. Like, it is something that you are okay putting your time towards, and not something that you completely dread. Now, there are little things that, you do dread, right? Like staff duty and whatever. But overall, at least coming into the troop, it feels like a second home. And that's that's the cool thing about the military, is like when you go to the office, when you go to troop, it's like, it's home.
Yeah.
When you go
when someone new comes in, you're like,
yeah. Well, what are you doing here? Yeah. Especially when other people from other troops come in, like, what are you doing in my house?
I remember a time, Staff Sergeant Hall from Anvil Troop, the Mortars, he lives right in front of me.
Yeah.
And there was a time I came to him because I needed a headlamp, right? And I walked in. The minute I walk in, first time Cameron pokes his head outside the office. He's like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And I'm like, I'm gonna start Hall, and I just look at him. I'm like, I'm gonna start Hall first. So I'm about to grab something real quick. Are you new? And I'm like, and the first time he's like, all right, carry on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important, like that, just that home feel, and being with your brothers.
Okay, you mentioned about having the toxic. When you go, it was toxic troop. Would you think it was because of the old troop commander, the old first sergeant, or you think it was because of the people in the troop?
Ooh, man. I think it was. I mean, it starts from the top, right?
Yeah.
So, like, yes, the troop commander did have a influence on it, right? He achieved results. Like the troop was lethal. They destroyed it in JWA. Like, like
one bulldog is not a part of it. But yeah, whatever.
one bulldog is not part of it, right? So he was extremely, he was extremely successful, and the brigade commander like identified him as one of his most successful company commanders in all of his brigade. But in that, trying to achieve all of that success, we're all human, and just like certain one of his approaches that he does gnaws at people, right? And then he was living on eggshells, right? And when everyone else is living on eggshells, it just kind of like translates down, right? So like there is some risk that he was unable to accept, and those are the kind of risks that is needed in order to raise work satisfaction.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you can finish up.
Okay. So yeah, and then of course, some of the NCOs, like, I think there are some that try to combat, but when someone tells you, "Hey, I will just get rid of you," like,
that's certainly not the right answer.
Yeah, so it was hard for them at the time, and they too was on eggshells. So I think it was just that environment at the time. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it was a way, and we were able to find during my command, and I know after my command they're going to get even better, of ways how to alleviate some of that stress, again, to raise work satisfaction and not have everyone on eggshells and feel as if they're living in a toxic environment, or they themselves do toxic things.
Me as a enlisted guy, right? I think I don't want everyone to tell a troop commander how to do his job, but I think there's two things that I believe that will come to toxic organization is no matter how good it is, the people are never satisfied. They want to get off every day at lunchtime. They want to have 4 days every weekend, and you're like, that's just not how it works, man. Like, our job, we need to go to the field, do training, we need to shoot guns, we need to clean the troop, we need to get paperwork done. Some people are never satisfied, and they always expect too good, and when it's not the way they want, what the unrealistic things that they want, they get upset, and it ends up affecting everybody. And you can even see it, some NCOs too. They start complaining and start affecting the guys under them. Because I mean, if I see my platoon sergeant whining about something, I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna whine to the rest of the dudes, and I'm like, it's just how it is. And then the second thing is that the first thing is not in control of the commanders. It's in control of the of the guys. Each person controls that. But the second thing I think is in control of the commander is listening to your subordinates. Because I think one thing that I've seen a lot of people do wrong is, I'm the commander, I'm higher ranked than you. Even NCOs do the same thing, and it's gonna be this way because I said so. We're not gonna say, hey guys, we need to accomplish this. What are your guys' ideas on how to do this? I have this planned, but I want to see what do you guys think about it. I think as a commander or as a team leader, you should listen to your guys. If you're a section leader, you should keep your ears open for your section. If you're a platoon sergeant, platoon leader, and it goes on and so forth all the way up. And I think that's something that if that lacks, if any of those two things happen, it's what causes it to be a toxic organization. I mean, I'm not sure if you agree with me or not.
So yeah, in a way. So it's always time dependent, right? And so we do have a chain for a reason. So like, for me, like, I expect my privates to be talking to their sergeants to be talking to their section sergeants to talk to platoons, and then like when I'm talking to platoon leaders, I'm expecting that they're getting their vibes from each one they're getting from theirs. So like when I'm getting their recommendations, I'm also getting the recommendations from each one of the Joes that's underneath them. Now, I'm not stupid. I know that they might wish away some other things. Yeah. So
that happens a little bit too often. Sometimes it will get to the ears of the commander or the person that needs to make the decision, and everything that was discussed between the private all the way to you, they kind of sometimes they sweep it under the rug, and it's like, well, that was pointless.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a human nature, because one might end up being more work for them. Yeah. So it's like, hey, am I going to bring up something that's more work? Two, it might be something that looks bad on them. Like, oh man, do I really want to air out this dirty laundry? Like, if I don't say anything, nothing is going to happen.
Exactly.
If I say something, only bad things are going to happen. And the other thing that I think a lot of people in the ranks tend to forget about is that sometimes people just forget.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're getting 1,000 different opinions, you're getting 1,000 different things going on, right? Whether you're a sergeant or a general, right? Like sometimes you just forget those one or two things. And now because you forgot about those one or two things, those one or two things may have been like very important to one or two people, right?
Yeah.
Or more. So now that person, without you knowing, is now is not as satisfied. It's like, why is no one listening to me? Why is nothing going on? Even though maybe that person may have captured 99% of the things, you didn't get that 1%. Where I think you can combat the toxicity is doing, what do you call it? Open sessions, right?
Sensing sessions.
Sensing
That
sessions.
doesn't happen enough. I think I had like
Yeah.
two of them since I've been here, and it's so important because
It is.
the guys, cause like you said, people forget to say something,
Yeah.
and maybe that thing will be mentioned in the session.
And I had quite a few sensing sessions with my guys. I would have it with so I was very personable with my sergeant fletcher classes and staff sergeants. Like I would talk to them. I knew about their lives. They told me like things point blank of what they thought and stuff like that. And I told them to cut the bullshit and just tell me like what they feel. Like don't lie, don't do anything, don't tell me what I want to hear. Like I talk to you, right? So I would talk to them very openly. My sergeants were more spot checks / sensing session. And then I would say I did about 5 sensing sessions, maybe a little bit more, maybe one more, with my Joes, right? E4 and below. And just, hey guys, what do you guys need to tell me? Hey guys, this is what's going on. Hey, I know you might not like this, but this is how I think, right? Like this is where we're currently at. This is how I'm thinking about it, which I think is important. Like, if you know how your boss thinks of something, you can then get into his planning cycle. You can then say those one or two things the right way. Because you may say something the wrong way, which just, instantly stops someone. So I would do that with my guys. Hey, this is how I think. All right. If you guys want to influence it, this is how you guys influence it, right? You may say something and I may say no. Like, I will tell you, why. I might not be able to tell you at that time, just due to time, but you can always come back, ask me, or during the session sentences, I'll come back and be like, hey, look, I know we were doing all this, but this is why we were doing it. We were doing it for this reason, and I'm sorry, but we did it because of this, and I know you may not like it, but that is the answer, right, for that. But also, hey, we have openings for other things. Like, what do you want to see? How do you want to see the approaches going? Like, I can tell you whether we can do it or we can't do it. And if you don't tell me, like, what is a friction point for you guys, like, I don't know. Like, CQ, right? CQ is a major friction point for the majority of my time. We were able to clean it up at the end of, like, guys getting pulled last minute.
Yeah.
So, like, me going to my NCOs then, it's like, hey, I'm going first starting like, hey, if we will have a CQ roster, 2 months out, so people will know like when they're on CQ, right? And of course, from there, we gave it to the platoon. So we said, hey, platoon, you have it on this day, you have it on this day, you have it on this day. Before 45 days out, you need to put your people on there so they knew, right? So one, I saw the friction of no predictability, right? CQ fucks everything up. Excuse my language, right? It messes up your plans. It just comes at random times. You get right out of the field, whatever. All right. Here's a major friction that the company.
Just get rid of CQ.
Yeah. I the company commander identify, right? With my partner, the first sergeant, which I think everyone wants to do, is like, hey, left and right limits. These guys need to know 2 months out, like, when is it going to be, right? They need to know, do I have it on the 4-day or not? Like, they got to know that. All right. Now, at the same time, like, we don't want this to make a dictatorship where the company is deciding everything. It's like, all right, well, now you will inform the platoon leadership, platoon leader, platoon sergeant, that they need to assign their names of who they want, right, at least 45 days. So
Yeah.
3rd platoon knows, hey, we got the L on Friday. Red platoon knows we got it on Saturday. White platoon knows they have it, whatever. Now they internally can do whatever.
Figure out the NCOs and the
Yeah,
guys
whatever they want to do, like who's going where, what's going on, like, they could reward someone or whatever to get that stuff into place. And I think that's an important way of managing, especially at like at a troop level, of what's going on, so you don't have toxicity. Toxicity may come from the troop commander and first sergeant just saying, hey,
you guys see tomorrow.
You guys got this. Yeah, like nope, the roster comes 1 month earlier. Training room is the one who creates it. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. It's very frustrating when you're like, especially when it's coming up 4-day, and then on that Thursday, it's like, hey, who wants to see Q? And nobody volunteers, and you're like, well, do I want to be that asshole that doesn't volunteer? And you're like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Hey, I need to do CQ. I'm not be able to go to Rome this weekend with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
So during my time, like that was just completely unsat. Like the 1 or 2 times that semi happened, like I came down and I smashed that, because especially when it comes to 4 days, right? 4 days, like no, that's what people fight and live for.
Yeah.
Is for 4 days when they come out here. When we're on ACRF, no one cares. Because they can't go anywhere. You can't drink.
Technically, you can. You just got to plan it in advance and put it in your pass.
So now we can. Yeah. Back in the past, when it was Colonel Jones,
Colonel Jones,
there was no.
He said nope.
No. Yeah. You're on when you were on an ACRF, you're coming back within 2 hours.
You might as well just bring your sleeping bag into work and sleep here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, the big problem. I mean, the plan that you have is great. I mean, I really wish that everybody did that. But I think a big issue with that is going to be consistency, not on your part, but consistency on maybe the platoon level, and like, all right, well, we need to fill this roster, and sometimes some people, not saying that everybody's like that, but some people just aren't consistent with it, and you're like, well, my plan is shit now.
Yeah, I think the only thing some of our younger guys just need to just understand is those who aren't consistent don't rise to the top.
Exactly.
Right. So yes, that might happen, that everyone gets a little screwed in the military from time to time, but just know that those people aren't making their way up. People who aren't reliable aren't going to go up. No. So maybe they may be at a certain high position at the time, but don't worry, they will get out the way, and you will continue to rise, and you'll find extremely competent leaders that are phenomenal, right? And things will get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just go on the next topic. What is a significant moment in your career that made you the leader that you are today?
So I would say during my S4 time, Major Clark, which I don't think you know who that guy is. So he was the old XO.
I think I actually know who that is.
Okay.
He had a Ranger bat deployment, right?
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. So he was very particular, not many people liked him, right? But working underneath him, just you have Ranger School, right? Is like, yeah, I can make sure that knots are good. For officers, is making sure that every single one of the pieces to get 2,000 miles for wherever we need to go is perfectly in place, and there's no issues, right? Like, he was that one to get it to that next level. So as you continue in your military career and you continue to progress, like, though you may have been a reliable team leader or platoon leader, you may not be a reliable staff officer or platoon sergeant or company commander, because you're still operating as a platoon leader. So working underneath him, I would say from a junior company grade officer, he allowed me to do more of the transition to a senior company commander, where, field grade officers would feel okay with me taking the lead, as well as, potentially working alongside them as a fellow peer, as a field grade officer. So most impactful time was working underneath him, and the absolute demand for perfection and reliability.
Someone that was very big on demanding perfection and reliability was Colonel Jones.
He was. I would say he's
coming on the show in 2 days.
Is he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I would say he was actually a lot easier than people give him credit for.
Exactly. Like I think that a lot of people. I mean, sorry my language, but I think a lot of people were just being bitches.
I think
some people just wouldn't toughen up. They just don't. They just want 4 days and they want fun time. And I'm like, that's not how it works, dude.
I think so. So like, you know, like working with him, like I've gotten blasted by him, which is not fun because like, you know, I won't say he like gives it to you, but like he identifies like, hey, you messed up, and you're like, oh man, I feel really bad. I really like, but that's nothing wrong with that. And then he just really liked to run long distance. And like me personally, I don't like running long distance. I love distance. So like the first thing on a Monday, do I want to run long distance?
I think sometimes you like you lose any kind of gain you're supposed to get from it after 5 miles. I think 5 miles is like the perfect distance to run if you want to push yourself. But I think if you want to just if you don't want to kill yourself but you want to get some,
I would say that 5 miles. So that was my only issue. Like other than that, he was simple. You knew exactly what he wanted. Yeah. You knew exactly what the results are going to be. The only things that, you know, sucked is if you just didn't want to go to the standard, which the standard was really not that hard. Rucking 18 miles, did it suck? Yeah, it sucked, but it wasn't hard.
The last time I actually did a ruck march for work was when he was in command.
Yeah.
Like, and I actually kind of like miss doing it because I mean, you finish a ruck, you're like, damn, that shit sucked, but I feel great because I just fucking destroyed a 12-mile ruck. I just destroyed an 18-mile ruck. I feel like a beast right now.
Yeah, and then the live fires, everyone did the live fires, so you kind of knew what to expect, and like you just knew that there was just a constant demand. Like I felt comfortable working underneath him to go fight in a war. Like
absolutely,
I thought like
totally do that.
Like things will be fine. So he was relatively easy. You knew his expectations, and the thing I appreciated with him towards like when I was in command with him was the counselings. Like ring counselings are so vital, and I see how the junior NCOs do it, which I hate, where it's like the full paragraph form. I don't like that.
They're just word vomiting.
Yeah. So like what I do with my platoon leaders and platoon sergeants and the other people I rate is exactly the way he does it, right? So like I will write in like 3 improved, 3 sustains that I have. I'll put inside of improves and sustains that they want to write in. And it's literally just me writing like, hey, you know, your sustain is maybe 4 words and we talk about it. And he did that. So you knew exactly where you stood. You knew where you messed up.
You
and
knew
like
what you wanted.
And it validated. Like there was a couple times where it's like, oh man, did I really mess up? And you came in and I was like, hey, you need to improve this. It's like, okay, yeah, I really did mess that up. Or like, oh, hey, did I knock that out of the water? Like, okay, I knocked that out of the water. Or like, was that like, okay, I'm on the way. So I really appreciate that counseling, which you don't get that much from field grades. You have to force it from them.
You hardly get it from your NCOs are supposed to
get it. You hardly. And it was crazy because as a troop commander, every single platoon sergeant I had, he was just like, they said, like, this is the first time I've been counseled by my troop commander. Like, every guy that came in that I was a raider or senior raider, they got initial counseling from me. If I was their senior raider, at least quarterly, so every 3 months they would get a counseling, maybe even fewer. If I rated them, it would be a counseling every single month, and this is like a legit counseling, like piece of paper and stuff. And I'll talk to them where they stood, where they need to go, and like where they need to drive to. Yeah, and I think that's super important.
Yeah, Bar Colonel Jones, some people just forgot why they were here, and he had his way of his leadership style, and to be honest, I don't really think it was a bad one. Sometimes it sucked being away from family for a long time, or just staying in the fields for a certain amount of time, or doing the live fire lanes 3 times.
We just needed to deploy.
Yes,
it was just like, you know, it was just
like ACRF to work right there.
Yeah, he needed to be at Bragg. He needed to be somewhere that just deployed. It was just like, I'm going to keep this PG. So it was just like, you know, you are super trained and you're on the side of, you know, ready to play football, and you're just seeing all these people sucking at the football game. You're just like, for the love of God, coach, put me in. And
it's like being a taxi driver and not having no clients. You're like,
yeah. So like that was my total feeling the whole time working underneath Colonel Jones, was just like, yes, fuck, we are fucking ready. We are fucking good. Let's just go fucking do this.
And the one thing about people, I think people got most frustrated was the amount of times he would recock you on a live fire lane. But some people would just wouldn't see like, dude, if I compare this lane that I just did to my first lane, I'm 10 times better.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. They just like, oh, I gotta do this again. And you're like,
Yeah. Well, that didn't have too many times in the Ample Troop during the platoon live fires.
listen. I was on a rain support for you guys one time. I was in the tower and I was listening to the comms and I don't know if that's true.
Uh-huh.
I remember the last troop live fires. I remember that.
The last troop live fires.
Yeah.
What happened
Well,
there?
platoon live fires.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let it light up the night. Were you there for that one?
Yeah, I was there for that one.
Hey, that would everyone has their mistakes. That one's a good.
All I hear is Cardinal Jones on the radio. What the fuck's going on, Evo 6?
Yeah.
What's going on? And I'm like, and it's not even a troop live fire. Why is Evo 6 getting chewed off for this? All right. What do you think is the most rewarding part about being a troop commander?
Man, just success. So not my success, everyone else's success, right? You have a huge family of people, right? Up to maybe 92 people, even more. And everyone's success, like, though it's not yours, is extremely rewarding, right? So, like, when someone crushes it in PT, when someone, go on vacation, when someone crushes it in live fire, just everyone's success is just such a huge sense of pride, right? Or even like when you see a dude, he came in all raggedy and now he's looking nice and he has a pretty girlfriend or something like that. It's just
or that dude that grows that disgusting mustache and just shows up to work with this shaved.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a problem in Bulldog.
Right? Like,
is terrible.
So it's those things. It's growth. It's just seeing success. And underneath the last squadron commanders, Colonel Stauffer, Colonel Jones, and Colonel Brown, this squadron is a very successful squadron.
Yes.
Full of people. So that's what's the most rewarding thing of being a troop commander here in 191 Cav is being able to be a part of everyone's success.
Absolutely. I mean, that's very important. I mean, if it's all you gotta do is just look at the progression from when, like, someone that's leaving, like you are, and then someone like I'm about to leave in like 4 months. If you just look at how you were or how the unit was when you first got here and how much it like grew, you just feel up that sense of pride. I think we got here roughly at the same time. I got here like June of 2017. You probably got here more probably in the winter of that year.
I think so, in the winter.
Yeah. I mean, if you just look back, you just like, damn, I'm really leaving here a lot better soldier or a commander or whatever the case was. You're leaving here a lot better than when you first got here. And that's probably the most important part. All right, we're getting ready to close up here, and so my intent for this podcast is to target those people that are struggling with leadership tasks or struggling to become a better leader, and they just need a little bit that motivation and a little bit of a little push to reach their objective. And what is a message or story that you have to listeners that from all over the world that are listening to us right now that are going through something, that being whatever it is, and they need some help or they need a message or they need a motivational story to accomplish their objective or their goal that they're facing at this moment?
Yeah, so halfway through my troop command, we had a negligent discharge that happened at a range. I had failed to properly report in a timely manner, which I was actually flagged and put under investigation. Basically, my command was basically on the line as the investigation was going on. Now, luckily, I would say, like, it was just my negligence of not saying it rapidly, right? I failed one of the fundamentals of reconnaissance of rapidly and timely reporting. So, of course, you got to see the man, when you mess up. And as a troop commander, like, you have very limited leeway. Like, you got to know what is going on. And that could be for any leader. Like, you have that one time of, like, very little room. So when it came up, I didn't play around. I didn't blame it on anyone else. I didn't blame it on the guy. I said I failed, right? Like, I failed to put this in place. I failed to do this and this and this. Whatever you decide to do, like, I'm going to continue giving my 100, right? So
Who was it? Colonel Jones at the time?
It
Or
was
Colonel Brown?
it was Colonel Jones, right? So, and that's what I did afterwards. Like, and it didn't really change my work ethic. I was still working the same way, but I knew that I knew that I could not be combative and defensive, and it was an honest mistake, right? I could not be combative or anything. What I had to do was just show that I was reliable, and that's what I did for the next 2 to 3 months. We consistently was always ready. We were consistently meeting time hacks. We were consistently doing exactly what we needed to do. Why? Because if needed on the weekend, I would come in, prepare, right? Whatever is your subordinates' key things that they need to know, right? Like your subordinates will always have 3 things that's important to them, right? You always do those 3 things, right? For those subordinates. Your leadership, right? Your leadership just expects you to do exactly what you need to do on time, right? Doing something timely, reliability, right? So I went from, potentially losing command, and most likely not getting an evaluation that was going to be good, which could have, not allowed me to promote it to major, to being rated the number 1 maneuver commander and getting an actually good evaluation from the brigade commander at the end of it, and with Colonel Jones extremely proud, which was a pivotal moment, I would say, in my professional career of accepting a fault, 1, 2, continuing to be reliable, right? 3, working with your fellow peers, your subordinates, all right? And then even then, your hires. So the field grades, the staff officers, everyone just knew that Anvil would have everything that they needed or asked for, and it would be done. And it panned out to be great and fantastic. And what happens then is you have a reputation, right, that is very easy to uphold. You just be on time. And what happens then, everyone looks towards you. Everyone then wants to compete against you. Everyone, like, you are then always on someone's tongue. Everyone is always, for some reason, looking at you. And
judging everything you do.
Judging everything that you wanted to do. And it may seem stressful, but it is okay. It is good. So my message to you, if there is one that you're in a leadership position, is once you hit that rough time, own that rough time, right? Just own it and figure out what you need to do to be reliable. And once you're reliable, you're going to see it. You're going to see the competition around you of everyone trying to compete. You don't need to win. You don't need to be the top dude. What you need is that everyone is after you.
All right. That's pretty motivating. It ties up to kind of what Max said on the last episode, is just be true to yourself and be the best version of yourself that you can be, right? Because, like you said, don't need to be the top guy, but if you just continue being the best version you can, you eventually will be that top guy, right? I mean, you said it all. I got nothing else to say on that. I mean, you pretty much hit everything, right? So we're gonna close it up here. I really appreciate you taking the time to come here and spend some time with us and share some knowledge and leadership experience, Andre. And I wish you luck on your next unit. Wish you and your family a happy New Year, and I'll see you listeners on the next episode.
Yep. I appreciate you having me. This was a wonderful experience, and definitely I would say everyone out there, please just reach out to people, talk to people. Bye. This was a blast.
All right. This is the World's Greatest Leaders podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
See the fields burn.